I'm Gail Zarin, and I'm here today to tell you about a wonderful storytelling festival that's going to be coming to Salem High School on May 16th. It's called the Heads and Tails Storytelling Festival. Some of you may have seen the flyer around town already. It's all day. It's 10 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're having 9 storytellers coming with 5 different cultures represented. It's a multicultural storytelling festival. And today I'm here with Judith Black, who's one of our performers. She's a local storyteller from Marblehead. She's one of our 9 performers, and she's going to be with us to talk about this whole art of storytelling. And also we'll be sharing with you live a story that she would like to share with you, actually 2 stories. And we'll have some clips from other storytellers who will be at the festival. The number to call for tickets and information about the Storytelling Festival is 617-498-2806. So before I go on and tell you details about the Storytelling Festival, because there are many, I'd like to introduce Judith. And welcome, Judith. We're happy that you're here. Why don't we start with a story? I mean, this is a storytelling festival. Let's start with a short story.
What an idea. How about a story about stories?
I like that.
Once, an anthropologist came to a small village in Africa. And you know anthropologists, they like to nose around. And this one was, looking into how people cuckoo, how they deal with various and sundry things. Oh my, hey, look at their toileting activity. You know anthropologists. Well, this anthropologist nosed around and in a hut outside of the central circle found another hut with television sets. They were piled 3 deep, and there was dust on them. She was very curious. So she went to the head man, and she said, I couldn't help but notice you have television sets piled up out there. You do have electricity. Yeah, I think the great gift of electricity had been given them by the Nestle's Corporation, hoping they'd listen to more advertising a few years earlier. And the head man said, yes, when we get televisions, we watch, then we turn off. Well, how interesting. Why don't you watch the television? We have storyteller. That's so quaint. But the television, it knows thousands of stories. Maybe so. But the storyteller knows us. And that, in a nutshell, is why it's an art that speaks to your heart, because no storyteller just tells without an audience. You tell to who's there, you make the details available. A story is like a quilt, and a quilt changes shape depending on what you put it on. Well, a story is the same way. It's completely interactive. It takes from and gives to the people that are there.
Thank you, Judith. That's a great story. It's amazing. So much time has been spent on how much time we watch television and how little we interact with one another and how little we know of one another, of each other's culture, of each other's backgrounds, of our own personal roots. And it was this reason that the Storytelling Festival was started, actually. The Jewish Federation of the North Shore decided that it would be really nice to have an opportunity to find out about cultures, not only the Jewish culture, but the Afro-American culture, the Brazilian culture, the Native American culture, the Japanese culture. And all these cultures, by the way, will be represented at the festival. But each one of these cultures have stories. And when we know the stories out of the origins from these cultures, we begin to understand more. And oddly enough, as we understand more and hear more, we find out that wow, this culture has a little bit of a story that's very much like my story, that's like that story over there and that cultural story over there. And suddenly we realize that there are a lot of threads that are interwoven.
Well, what's similar about humanity is similar across cultures. And it's so funny because in the story world we call it motif, and that there's this very specific motif, and you'll find that motif in stories from every single spot in the world. Now, one storyteller didn't run around from Ireland to Central Europe to Africa telling the same story. It says that what speaks to people is so powerful it reappears in their stories.
It's wonderful how people can learn not only their cultural roots, but also about their own personal family.
Oh, can I tell you a funny story?
Tell.
You know how you think you know your parents? I mean, you know your parents. You go, I grew up with my parents, I know my parents. But you know your parents as they've related to you. You know how to push each other's buttons, you know how to make each other crazy, you know what they worry about, they know how they're afraid for you. But when I started to do research for the Department of Interior, I had a grant to write a story for them about the women that built the M1 rifles for D-Day. And in researching that, it dawned on me, oh, my parents were around then. I wasn't. So I started to ask both my mother and father about their life during the war. And my goodness, there were people I didn't know about. You know, my mother talked about working in an industry where she had to put in 50 and 60 hours a week. She talked about moving home with her family, and my father talked about having to put together his M1 really quickly and losing a bolt and panicking. And it gave me a window into human beings that I hadn't known before. And I came to appreciate them in a whole different way. And we stopped arguing. Why? Because whenever we'd argue, I'd ask them a question about their life before I was around. And it created a whole new relationship between us.
A festival like the Heads and Tails Storytelling Festival offers an opportunity for people to ask a question, who am I and who are you? And what's your story? And what's my story? And I hope people that will come to the festival on May 16th at Salem High School will come away asking those questions. You know, what is my story? And be excited about that aspect. So I'm here with you. For those of you coming in now, we're talking with Judith Black about the Heads and Tails Storytelling Festival at Salem High School, May 16th at 10 a.m., going throughout the entire day. And we hope that you'll join us there. The phone number to call for tickets and brochures is 617-498-2806. Tell me about this whole art form of storytelling. You know, you've been a storyteller, this is your profession. And what was it about this art form that sparked you, that you even wanted to do this?
Oh, it's so great. It's this wonderful combination of whoever you happen to be and the desire to communicate something. So it's a folk art instead of a fine art. So somebody would say, oh, I'm a failed ballerina, or I'm a failed opera singer, because they couldn't cut the swash on that hard work to become one of 8 million people to do one thing finely. Well, one of the great things about storytelling is great storytellers tell out of who they are. So if you're a singer, you sing your stories. If you're a mover, you move your stories. If you're emotional, your stories are passionate. And if you're quiet, your stories are quiet. And it touches the hearts of the people you share them with. One, because you care about the story you're telling. You're using everything you are to communicate it to them. So it's a glorious art form. And one of the nice things about this festival is you won't just see masters practicing it, you can come and do it.
Exactly. At the festival, we're going to be having workshops as well. There'll be 3 workshops. Judith will be giving one of the workshops. Her workshop's going to be creating stories for children. Another woman by the name of Laura Sims, who's one of our storytellers. A little bit later, I'll tell you individually about the storytellers, but she's going to be doing a workshop on creating story from personal history. And then we have a 3rd workshop given by Antonia Rocha, who's from Brazil, who studied with Marcel Marceau. And Antonia will be doing a workshop on creating stories through mime. So there's very many opportunities for sharing a story. We'll even have a kids space available for a timeout space for kids, because kids kind of get itchy, the little ones, sitting and listening all day, and the breaks in between the sessions, we'll have a time for them to color and make story through artwork. So storytelling is an art form really that's available and accessible to everybody. One doesn't have to be a professional on stage to be a storyteller.
And if you remember, and probably most of you, who told you your first stories? What do you remember? And you start to think back and you think, my father sitting at my bedside, or in Girl Scouts around a campfire, or a funny uncle who used to come over for dinner. That the most powerful stories that touched you weren't by professionals, they were by people sharing who they were and thus who you are in their lives. Because you're going to hear the stories, your family stories are stories that never get written down in history books. But without them, you will never know your own history. So hopefully people will come and they'll be inspired to tell the stories of their own families, their own childhoods. And it's a great way to communicate with your children. Because you know how your kid hits about 3 and you say, no, no, no. You know, it's like, ah! And you have this your relationship becomes confrontational. And because that's your job, it's a bummer being a parent, you know, and it's your job to keep the kid from being hurt, from doing things that'll be dangerous, and you're doing that all the time. So you have this little square of space, and it's called story time. And you enter it, and it's this non-confrontational time where you share a story with each other, and you tell them about a time you dropped the watermelon and were foolish, you know, or a time their grandpa was supposed to pick you up and they weren't there and you were scared.
It's
and
a
it makes you
sacred
human.
time. It's a sacred time. The nice thing also about this particular festival, it's designed so that we have stories available for people of all ages. We have 4 simultaneous stages going on throughout the entire day. We have one stage for youngsters ages 3 to 6, and appropriate stories being told in that space. Another space in the high school will be for elementary school age children. Another one for adults, 12 and up. And then we have workshops going on.
Are you going to card people in the adult workshop, in the adult
No
space?
carding, no carding. Anyone 12 and up, and we won't check if you're 11 or over 100. But seriously, it is a festival that is available for everybody of all ages. The culmination of the festival will be an opportunity for people to engage in song, and it's going to be performed by Bill Harley, who is a Grammy nominee, one of 3 people who were nominated for Children's Spoken Word Album this year, and his performances are extraordinary. His appeal is not only to children but to adults as well, and his stories and songs are all about this whole process of being alive together, parent and child, and all of the different nuances that has. His stories are funny and poignant, his songs are engaging, and his performance will be a family concert at the very end of the day from 4 to 5. And incidentally, people can get tickets to come just for the morning, just for all day, or just for the Bill Harley family concert at the end. So there's a variety of prices for tickets available. If people purchase tickets prior to the festival, there's quite a bit of a reduction in the cost, and people can call the festival number.
What is that number, Gail?
That number is 617-498-2806. I know it by heart because I've been answering the phones this week with people calling in for pre-sales. So
Bill, I think, is the finest writer of children's songs in the country today, and just a good, kind, and very brilliant and funny man.
At the very end,
you don't want to miss him.
At the very end of the show, we'll have a clip from him. But before we go on, what I'd like to do is show you a little clip given by Laura Sims. Laura Sims is one of the storytellers that will be at our festival. She'll be doing the opening. She is an internationally well-known storyteller from New York. In fact, she was asked this past November to present stories at the Nobel Peace Prize celebration. So we're very excited to have her. She's done an enormous amount of work in New York at Lincoln Center, and also did a huge storytelling project in healing at Beth Israel Hospital in New York. So we're excited to have her here. And let's look at a story by Laura Sims that we have a little clip here, so we'll roll that in a minute.
And now, the other story.
There's one thing that Russians and Germans have in common, and that is Poland. And a Polish man told me this story last year in Paris. There was a man who had a beautiful piece of land right on the Polish border, and he made a journey. So he asked his neighbor to watch his land, and the neighbor cultivated the land so that it flourished. And when the first man came back and asked for his land, the second man said, "No, this is my land. Look what I've done." And the first man said, "No, this is my land." And they argued, and at last they went to a judge. Now, the judge is very famous. His name is Nasruddin. Some people think he's a great wise man. Other people think he was a fool. But Nasruddin took the 2 men back to the field. And then he talked to the land, laid flat down on the earth, and put his ear to the earth. The 2 men said, "What are you doing?" And Nasruddin said, "I'm asking the question of the land." "Oh, what does the land say?" Nasruddin said, "Well, the land says that both of you are wrong. You belong to the land." In Moscow, I met a taxi driver who spoke fluent English, who knew Nasruddin's stories. So I discussed this story with the taxi driver, and I asked the driver, "So do you think the 2 men shared the land?" And the driver said, "You should know that the solution is not in the story, but The solution is made by the one who hears the story, so I'm not going to answer your question. I'll tell you another tale. He told me this story. Nasruddin was studying music. He was playing a long-necked lute that has many strings, and men bow it all up and down. But Nasruddin was in his living room playing one note in one place, and it sounded like this. He was driving his wife crazy. She said, "Why don't you learn to play that instrument all up and down like the other men?" He said, "They're all looking for this one note." So I ask myself, since there are many ways to solve a problem, whose land was it? Whose earth is it?
So you just saw Laura Sims, who will be performing at the Heads and Tails Storytelling Festival. Her story is an interesting story talking about land and who owns the land, a very timely story with what's going on in the world right now. So stories can be entertaining, stories can be poignant, stories can be politically based, stories can be about fairies and the future and fantasy and all of that. Let me introduce you to some of the storytellers, to actually all of the storytellers who will be at the festival. I'd like to show you some photos of them so you can recognize them a little bit. Laura Sims is in the top left corner. This is the woman that you just saw. She's from New York. I explained a little bit about her just before. Going off to her right is Bill Harley. Bill Harley, as I said before a little bit, is a Grammy nominee. He has 17 award-winning tapes to his credit from the American Library Association, from Parents' Choice Awards, a very accomplished musician and storyteller, and he has fans all over the country who flock to see him.
You mentioned his NPR work.
And yes, of course, he's an announcer as well on NPR. He's been on many times.
Commentator,
As
yeah.
a commentator, yes. Just below Bill, over here is Motoko. Motoko is originally from Japan. She lives in Massachusetts. She's an extraordinary storyteller. Her whole demeanor is representative of her culture. She also does mime. She was recently on Mr. Rogers' show, so she's familiar with the younger set who watch Mr. Rogers regularly. And she will be telling stories from Asia at the Storytelling Festival for preschool and elementary age children. Just below Motoko is Eshu Bumpus. When children hear his name, they say, "I'm going to see Eshu Bumpus." They love his name. Eshu is of African American descent, and he is also very well known in the schools. He's done a lot of work with school children, both workshops and storytelling. He also has a wonderful, wonderful ability to interact with children and with his audience. He's a musician as well as a storyteller. The very bottom, you see Judith. Judith is in this kind of a position right there. Judith can be so many things. I'm so happy that she's with us not only today on the show, but that she's going to be part of the festival, and we're lucky to have her in Marblehead as a close person that we can tap into her stories whenever we need her. Just above Judith is Bonnie Greenberg. Bonnie Greenberg is also an award-winning storyteller. She's well known for Jewish stories and is the head of the Jewish Coalition of Storytellers. She's been very active in the whole role of storytelling. In fact, this past 2 weeks, she's been in Poland collecting some news stories from people who live there. In the bottom left corner of the poster is Dovie Thomason. Dovie Thomason is Native American, and she is
She's Lakota, I believe.
Lakota, Native American tribe. She has really collected an enormous number of stories from her tribe and is very respectful of the telling and of the quality of the stories from her culture. I remember one time at the Three Apples Storytelling Festival, which is another storytelling festival that takes place in Massachusetts in the fall, we wanted her to tell a particular story, but it was not to be told, it was not allowed to be told with her culture until the first frost. So we were very fortunate because the first frost came before the festival. Just above Dovey Thomason is Antonio Rocha, who is from Brazil. He'll be telling stories from the Brazilian culture, and he'll also be doing the mime workshop. Above Antonio is Betty Lerman, who'll be doing Jewish storytelling to little children and to elementary-aged children as well. So we have a full roster of performers plus workshops. So I hope you all will be coming on May 16th to the Salem High School to the Heads and Tails Storytelling Festival all day from 10 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Now,
What's the phone number, Gail?
the phone number, Judith is constantly asking me the phone numbers because he knows that she wants all of you to come, 617-498-2806. Judith, I want to take advantage of your being here. Would you tell us another story?
Oh, I'd be glad to. Oh, let me brag for a minute.
Brag.
I'm working right now on this grant from the Mass Foundation for the Humanities and Public Policy. And one of the wonderful things that storytelling can do, I mean, it brings alive your family, it brings alive your culture, it tells stories that are thematic to humans' lives. The other thing it does is remind us of pieces of history that often got left out of history books.
Very definitely.
And one of the great things about American history, remember when we were kids and we were studying about westward expansion and manifest destiny, and no one ever mentioned the word genocide, but if you asked a Cherokee, they would. That history isn't so much a science as a vantage point. Something happened, but how you interpret it depends on who you are. So they commissioned me to write a story about Lucy Stone. Do you know Lucy?
No, tell me about Lucy Stone.
Well, you might know from around Massachusetts, you'll hear of the Stone Center or the Stone this. It's Lucy. Lucy was a remarkable woman born in 1818 in Brookfield, Massachusetts. She was the first Massachusetts woman to graduate from college, the first college in this country that accepted women and African Americans. It was a radical institution called Oberlin. And you think, Oberlin? Yeah, that fits. Oberlin still is a college on the edge in many cases. And she went off there in 1843, paid her own way through college, and became a speaker for the Massachusetts Anti-Slavery Society. And she spent her entire life traveling this country, speaking out for the rights of the slaves and women. So I have a whole piece on her now, commissioned by them, and it's...
That's so wonderful.
Well, one of the things that, and again, you study history, and I'll walk into a classroom, a ninth grade classroom, and I'll say, how many of you think that the North was anti-slavery before the Civil War? And they all say, yeah, the North. I said, wrong. In the late 1840s and 1850s, to be an abolitionist was a dangerous, radical position. William Lloyd Garrison and a few radicals took it. Everyone else said, well, I don't own slaves. Things are working okay.
So what this story that you tell through this character and this historical story that you tell, what age group is that for? That's not going to be at the festival, but when you do it in schools, what? Because
Lucy was as Calvinist as you get.
Right.
Well, we need to represent Calvinist culture too someday. It's for middle and high school students, and in a gorgeous costume, circa 1869. Lucy goes in and talks to the young people about, oh, look at you, to see boys and girls studying together, and to know how many of you would like to go to college. Oh, how lucky. You young women, you citizens of color have a full half-dozen institutions to choose from today. When I was a girl, I could go to college. In Brazil, it was the only one in the entire world accepting women. So it draws them in. So that's another very exciting piece of storytelling, that you can open up a piece of history that's there and alive, but just hasn't been introduced into history books.
What do you do differently when you're telling a story to an adult audience as compared to a little audience? When you're going to be doing creating stories for children. So what kinds of little tips? We'll get a little snippet here of what people might anticipate at a workshop. What would you tell people about creating a story for children, for little kids?
Well, first of all, I'd hope that a lot of parents would come, and they'd want to be creating stories for their children. And the first thing I ask them to do is, look at your kid. Tell me about your child. If you were going to create an animal that was an analogy of your child, what animal would that be? What animal? Well, Dorothy. Her daughter's Dorothy. If Dorothy was a critter, what critter would Dorothy
be? A critter.
Be?
Oh my gosh, she's putting me on the spot here. Sometimes a lamb and sometimes a lion. We have a very rich family, full with life.
That is a great thing. So you could say There once was a creature. I was never sure which form she would be, lion or lamb, but she lived. And where's Dorothy's favorite place in the house?
Interesting. Right now on the couch.
And the creature always lives curled up on one part of the couch. So the stories always begin the same way, and then you deal with different issues that come up in your life. So let's say, I mean, right now Dorothy's looking at colleges, right? You know, and there's a lot of anticipation and looking, and one day Dorothy had to go off all on her own to visit a school, and she woke up as a lion. I don't want to go alone. Now, Dorothy, we've talked about...
You know, it's funny, I have had a lot of parents come up to me when they heard that we were producing the storytelling festival, and they said, you know, I've wanted to tell stories to my children, especially when they go to bed. I feel so distanced from my child when I'm just reading from a book. And most of the time parents do have the capability of doing it. It's just the courage, the permission that it's okay to be these different voices, be the lion voice or whatever, and have your mind go in all different directions to be able to create a story.
So much fun. I mean, what we'll do together is we'll create a frame, and that frame is what every story can happen in. And then from you and your child's experience, you create new episodes. And it's a bonding.
Wonderful.
Which brings me into a story. This is a new one. It's called How I Learned to Love Football. As a post-feminist, liberated single parent, I thought I could be both father and mother to my son. So when he was little, we would have sock wars in the bedroom. Come on, kid, throw it harder. I was going to promote this stuff. I learned the name of every single truck in every single Richard Scarry book ever published. Excuse me, is that a problem? No? The camera people were all talking to each other. I thought, maybe we ran over time. I learned the name of every single truck in every single Richard Scarry book ever published. And I'd even play catch with him in the back. Perfect dual parent. Until one day the kid comes home and says, Mom, will you sign this? What is it, honey? It's a permission slip to play football. You don't want to play football. Yeah, I want to play No, honey, people get hurt playing football. Mom, no, sweetie, you don't understand. Football, men made it up so they'd have a topic of conversation when they were left alone together. You don't want to play. Mom, no, sweetie, football is just a way for people to legally hit each other and make it okay. You don't want, Mom, honey, you're a Jewish boy. We joined debate club. We don't play. Mom, I want to play football. And so the story, which I will be telling at the festival, is how I learned very reluctantly to love football.
Thank you. We'd like to show a clip also about from Bill Harley. Now, your stories are a little bit for older children. Bill Harley's are for all-age children with songs involved too. So perhaps we can put on a little clip of Bill. And again, hoping that you'll join us on Sunday, May 16th from 10 to 5 o'clock at the Salem High School for the Heads and Tails Storytelling Festival. Judith, thanks for being with us. Now stay tuned to watch Bill Harley.
2, 3, 4, 5. We come from the mountain, we come from the mountain. Go back to the mountain, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, go back to the mountain, turn the world around. Okay, I'll tell you what, that's how the song goes. We'll teach you, get you to sing it and do some hand motions with it, okay? So we're going to start off with mountains like this. Can you make mountains like this? Okay? Don't do ballerinas. This is ballerinas. Don't do. We come from the ballerina. That doesn't sound right. Okay? So there's nothing.